Today on Game Talk Live, we're taking a look at Disney's massive efforts to raise the bar on the theme park experience. Plus, cutting-edge tech is putting us one step closer to complete immersion in our favorite franchises. I've got a good feeling about this. Happy May 4th, everybody. I'm Andy Roman, and welcome to Game Talk Live, where we discuss the biggest video game news of the day, live with help from our chat audience. Joining me now are three expert guests to discuss these gaming topics and more. First up is Gary. Gary Scullion is a filmmaker from the UK, who you might know from his super geeky videos under the sneaky Zebra umbrella, and he's a pretty big Star Wars fan. Hi, Gary.
A little bit of a Star Wars fan, just a
smidge.
I'm surrounded by many things.
Well, thank you for being here, Gary. Also joining us today is Chris Gore, the editor of FilmThreat.com and the chief evangelist for Gamer.com, formerly of G4 TV's Attack of the Show, where he did the DV Doomsday segment. Spirit animal is Batman. Hi, Chris.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, thank you. Also joining us today is Curtis Hickman, the co-founder and chief creative officer at The Void, the critically acclaimed immersive entertainment company. With more than 10 years of experience producing award-winning visual effects and motion graphics for film and television, combined with an obsession with the art of illusion, Curtis's background in digital and practical illusion design has led to the development of the fundamental technologies behind The Void. Welcome, Curtis.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
All right, guys, let's hop into our first Star Wars topic today. Over the last 6 years since Disney acquired Star Wars, we've seen the franchise integrated into multiple theme park attractions. Set to open in 2019, construction is well underway for Galaxy's Edge, a new land coming to Disneyland and Walt Disney World resorts, which will allow guests to visit a trading port on the edge of space and find themselves being part of a story with interactive elements, almost like a real-life video game. Is Star Wars Galaxy's Edge setting a new standard for lands and attractions at the Disney parks? Gary, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I think this is super, as a nerd who wants to live in the Star Wars universe, I think this is the closest, it's ever going to come. And, one of the things they've made is the land in the park is canon in the universe. So the actual attraction you go to actually exists in the world of Star Wars. And then they've got this kind of interactive stuff they're putting into it where what you do in the park makes you part of the story, which is just crazy cool because you can have bounty hunters after you. And if you told 10-year-old me one day there'd be a ride where I could fly the Millennium Falcon, I'd probably lose my mind. So I'm very excited.
Do you think then we're going to see books and graphic novels based around the lore of, say, this new land?
I genuinely wouldn't be surprised if the stores in the land don't sell typical Star Wars merch, but sell, if you want to buy a doll, it's kind of like the Stormtrooper doll Jyn has at the beginning of Rogue One and stuff like that, just to make it as immersive as possible. And I definitely think it'll pop up in some of the expanded book universe stuff eventually, or get mentioned by someone in a film in the background somewhere.
Sure. So will we see more immersion and full-scale set builds from other franchises? Curtis, what do you think here?
I really hope so. I think that's the future. I think this idea of being immersed and lost in new worlds through all sorts of different mediums, of course, VR, but in a practical sense, I think is amazing when that's done really well. So I'm pushing for it, and I think clearly people are going and are asking for these types of experiences, and therefore they will do more. I think that's just what's coming.
Right. All right, Chris, what are your thoughts here? Are you hyped up about this new Galaxy's Edge?
Totally. I was at D23 and saw this scale model of the whole park. I mean, it's pretty incredible because you'll go under a tunnel and then emerge into Galaxy's Edge, which is really cool. And I have heard that they're not going to sell traditional merch there, and everyone will be in character, kind of like if you've ever been to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, where people act like they're in the world. So they will be selling merch outside of Galaxy's Edge, but the merch they'll sell inside will actually be like you were saying earlier, that doll that Jyn had, right? They really had bad Star Wars toys in Star Wars. So you'll be able to get those for real.
So with galactic credits being awarded for certain achievements throughout the park, are we moving toward the gamification of theme parks? Gary?
A little bit, I think. I think that's kind of, we go on various rides where there's a competitive nature anyway, especially in like Disney. If you take like the Toy Story rides, for example, you're always playing against your friend to try and get a higher score. I think it's kind of great that you then take that outside of the ride and it becomes part of your experience as you go around. And there's a certain sense of achievement, especially with some of the rides where there's a kind of, succeed or fail on your ride. It's not, like older Star Wars rides, like Star Tours, for example, where it's at the end of it, you always get to the end and you always succeed because that's the ride. And I love the fact of catering you deeper into the world of this thing. So there's more of a want to do more or go back and do more and do better and earn more credits and do all this stuff. I think it's a really great thing because at the end of the day, that's why what we've always wanted in Star Wars video games is to feel like we're part of that world. And it's a really difficult world to capture. So this is probably the closest we're ever going to kind of get to it.
So is this real life microtransactions? Because already I see it in my head now, like book a 3-night stay with AAA or whatever and get like bonus 100 credits for Galaxy's Edge. Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to go that way. Especially, I mean, this is the first time you're really taking the attendee and putting them in the driver's seat, right? I mean, on Star Tours, you sit, you experience it. I mean, this will be a chance for you to actually, have an impact on the outcome. So I'm super excited about it. I think that this really is the future. I think it's really the real life version of Westworld. And having seen the original Westworld from the 70s with Richard Benjamin, I've just always wanted to see that become a reality.
Yeah. Curtis, what do you think about this experience and say microtransactions or the gamification of theme parks? Is this just a dream for someone that's in your position?
Yes and no. I think it's a two-edged sword. I think that the gamification side of it and giving people free will and affecting the story of the IP that they're participating in is awesome. I think that's great. I worry when you get into the microtransaction side of things that you take it a little bit too far and you start rebuilding that fourth wall through these microtransactions. Like you run into them and all of a sudden it's like, oh right, I'm in a theme park. Mm-hmm. So as long as that's done, I think in the right way, in a way that isn't big turnoff and takes people out of the experience, it can be amazing. And if anyone can do it, I'd say Disney could pull it off.
Absolutely. So no confirmation, this is just an educated assumption that these actions that you do in Galaxy's Edge will be tracked by Disney's Magic Band, which is in essence just this fancy term for an RFID bracelet that allows the user to enter the parks, enter their hotel room, purchase merchandise, and more. So how will this result in better results for guests? Is it alarming to think about how guests are being tracked within the park? Chris?
I think that's
Curtis, go ahead.
You sign up for, right? I mean,
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Chris, what do you think?
I'm told that the Magic Band was a huge failure, actually, but perhaps they just weren't using it in the correct way. I like the idea of, not having to be too concerned about my wallet, but I think there's some privacy issues that need to be worked out.
Yep. So both Nvidia and Epic Games have joined forces, no pun intended, to help create these new experiences as Galaxy's Edge. How is working directly with a game developer, especially one with the hottest game under its belt currently, a key in elevating the theme park experience? Gary, what do you think?
Anything that kind of gets you more interactive, more deep into the world, it's just going to make you want to come back and keep coming. And there's so many of these that can just be expanded as time goes on. Obviously, having been on the Star Wars Void experience is incredible, and more stuff like that is just going to be even greater. And the amount of adventures and variety, if you take stuff like where we've gone with things like Star Tours, where that started out as a simple ride, and then has escalated into you can have a variety of different adventures. Who knows where the road ends with the galaxy far, far away. I mean, it's like an entire galaxy. And there's a lot of fun that can be had with all this technology playing in that whole sandbox.
Sure. So, Curtis, I mean, I'd love to hear from you here, especially with your experience with the Void, and speaking about Star Tours and how kind of the experience is different every time you go now on Star Tours, which I think makes it a very unique attraction. Does this kind of offer maybe a better experience for the modern Star Wars fan because you could add something for Solo or you could add something for Star Wars Rebels? Does it make it kind of easier in a sense?
Definitely easier than just building some giant dark ride for $1 billion and then having to tear it down 10 years later and try something else. The medium is, as attractions go and as immersion goes, designed for overturn, just like you said. It's designed to get new experiences and updates in as much as is needed or as people ask for. Which I think is great. It also allows for these unique opportunities for people to kind of affect the story themselves, and then the future of that experience can actually change depending on what the guests have done within it.
Sure. Chris, are we moving toward, you think, more attractions that are VR-based or AR-based in theme parks? I mean, Universal's been doing that for years, but...
Yeah, absolutely. And I've done the Void 3 times. I have to say, totally loved it. I thought it was great. I think if there's any Easter eggs you'd like to share, I would love to hear them. But yeah, I mean, it really is the future. Just everything from the, effects of the temperature in the room. I don't want to give anything away. The fact that it can be different depending on, who you bring along with you. I don't know. I would love to see them score you. I want to see how I do against other people on my team, which I think would be fun. But it really is, I mean, it's so incredible. And I do also love the fact that once you enter the room, you are in this experience. You see a briefing that tells you what your mission is. And then once those goggles go on, you're there. It's just, I don't know, I really do believe that it's the future. I think the important thing is at this early stage is to focus on well-known film properties, because we know what the rules of that universe are. And I think that makes it easy for players to get into. We know, what the weapons are, how the world works. And I think original IP it'd be difficult to launch in this platform.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to move into our second topic, but right now we got to make way for a break. And if you guys have an idea for a topic for Game Talk Live, please send us a tweet at Game Talk Live, letting us know what topics you'd like to see us discuss on the show. We'll be right back.
Hi, my name's Todd. We're going to be playing some H1Z1, and a lot of you out there are going to be able to win some prizes by guessing when our guests die. Sasha, are you ready to go play some H1Z1?
Let's do this.
I think we've seen this story before.
We got a lot of guests tonight from all over the world. They're competing for a trophy, our Champion of the Night prize. Which one of you is going to be the best?
Anybody that comes in my way is done.
Get a helmet, get a backpack, get a rifle.
Kill everyone. Engage.
Oh my God!
I give the people what they want to see.
Oh my God!
Oh wow, he took a big hit. He got a gun!
Can you throw me in like the Norwegian server or like someplace where they're just not gonna find me?
Did I die first? No one's died that early in the game ever.
Aside from, welcome back everybody. Aside from reworking its theme parks, Disney has partnered with tech companies like The Void to build out immersive experiences that are more accessible and affordable for the masses with the help of VR. So Curtis, I'd love to hear from you without spoiling too much for those who haven't experienced The Void. Was it tricky building out a 4-player co-op experience that felt true to canon and the timeline for which it takes place?
No, it was really easy. Frankly, the easiest thing I've ever done. No, all right. It was hard, but it was really fun. To be honest, I mean, it was one of the funnest things I think I've ever done in my life. The ILM X Lab team was incredible to work with. They were really open to feedback, to understanding how the Void works and how kind of this illusion we're trying to create of a deeply immersive reality can be best used and paired with the Star Wars universe. And one of the first things we said when we came in is we want a story that is authentic, that is a true Star Wars story, that if in the future they ever show this piece of Mustafar at this time again, then they're going to have to show this base that you're on. They're going to have to show these things because it actually took place in the Star Wars universe as part of the true Star Wars story. And they were like, all right, great, that's what we want too. Let's do it.
Sure. So, Chris, you've talked a little bit about your experience with the Void. Gary, have you also done the Void?
Yes, I have, and it's exactly as awesome as it sounds.
I agree. I have also done it, so I'm glad that we all have experience here doing it. I feel like it's VR, but just taken to like this other level, and it's a true Star Wars experience. So, Curtis, how does creating an experience revolving around a massive IP like Star Wars kind of change the creative process behind a project like The Void? Does it differ with maybe non-licensed IP?
Sure. You have to. You start within sort of this box. Now, granted, Star Wars is this really big box, and there's a lot of story and a lot of lore and a lot of things. But you have to understand where the walls of that box is, and work really close with, in our case, with Lucasfilm and Story Group to make sure that every little detail was accurate and correct. And so there was a lot of checking and making sure, can we do this? Is this okay? Or what if we did this? And they're like, no, there's no way you can do that, but that you can do. And there's so a lot of back and forth and kind of slowly pacing ourselves through the story and through the experience beats until we came up with a story that we all felt that, yes, this is what I want to do. I want to step into this story, play it out, and have a blast doing it.
Is there anything that you can share with us that you asked if you could do, or that Lucas said no?
There were a few things with one of the characters who I won't say who it is. But those who've been through it know what I'm talking about. That and you could probably frankly guess, but I wanted to do. I was like, oh, it'd be cool if we did that, and they're like, no.
Just shut it down.
That character would not do that. And I'm like, okay, you know what? That's fair. That's fair.
All right. So, Chris, where do you see the future of event-based entertainment going? Will this be the future of VR instead of, say, home setups?
Yeah, I think for home setups to be successful, I think everybody realizes it's got to be HD, it's got to be wireless. But you're never going to get that kind of experience where you can actually physically walk everywhere, right? I mean, that's why something like The Void is so successful, because it takes advantage of your being able to walk around. I think in order for it to be successful, they've got to get the pricing right. And I think they also might consider other experiences, maybe a theme park where you go, you rent the headset, and then you've got 8 or 10 different experiences where you can walk up and just go right in with a headset that you have just for sanitary reasons. I know it's a weird thing to think about, but I think really the way it's going to spread is more and more people experiencing it. I really wish that they do some sort of coupon. I come back, I get 50% off. I brought 3 new friends, and then they're hooked on it. So it really is fantastic, but there's no way to experience it. It's kind of like hockey. Hockey's great live, but on television, if you've never been there, okay, this is just for anyone watching in Canada, or because the. Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like something like The Void is so great, but you can't. It's hard to. And I didn't want to have any of my friends watch videos because I didn't want them to ruin anything. I said, just trust me. So I really think there's got to be a way to have the experience in terms of the value of it. They've got to get that pricing. It's got to be right.
So basically, you want a punch card, a frequent punch card for going to The Void so many times.
Punch card, or just something where I can just go all day.
A pass. Okay.
Bring my own or rent a set. So
sure. All right, Gary, do you see this is the future of VR, where it's more kind of event-based, it's more destination, it's more immersive because of the venues that the things like The Void are at?
Yeah, I think there is definitely, like, the home system is kind of fun, but it's expensive. It's, you require a system that can run it. And that kind of makes it very difficult for, it's the same thing as whenever games consoles came out. Whenever it's super high priced, it's very difficult to get it into the home space. But it's that same thing with The Void. It's so interactive. You get to a point where you forget that you're even wearing a headset. because you're just so immersed in everything. You can, you step on stuff, you feel stuff around you, you're interacting with things in the physical realm. So I think that is where this all goes to down the road. That's the core thing where people are going to, and also the ability to get 4 or 5 people together interacting with each other is huge for this technology. I think that's the part that makes it great, because we love being competitive with our friends. That's why online gaming became, so big compared to solo gaming. We're very competitive people. So if I can be a better stormtrooper than my buddy, you'll be damn sure I'm going to be.
Challenge accepted, Gary. All right. So, Curtis, is there a piece of technology that maybe hasn't been invented yet or cost effective that would make the Void experience even better?
That's so many. So many.
Is it so many? All right, give us an example.
Yeah. I mean, there's stuff that's being invented. How about that? Like right now, top minds are working on this stuff. But obviously, foveated rendering, being able to get even more detail and pack more, resolution into the tiny area where your eyeball is looking, and be able to track that, be able to track where people are looking, be able to track people's emotions, so facial tracking in real time. Real-time ray tracing, I'm really big on. Like, I know that's just starting to become a thing, and if I could throw like 8, giant Nvidia Titans or whatever into a backdrop for somebody to render it, I would, right? Because I'm in love with that technology. There's different haptics technology that are coming out, different tracking for the self-embodiment illusion that we're trying to accomplish. That's again being worked on, and the wireless solutions, not having to render everything on the person like we do at the Void now, but being able to render all of that off stage and just transmit it directly to the user in real time with almost no latency is ideal as well. So, and I could go on and on. There's tons, but you add these things together and you start getting closer and closer to what I think people imagined VR was always supposed to be, which is what we're really aiming for. VR is a concept that people can intuitively understand. Like, okay, yeah, I enter into a new world. Accomplishing that task is enormously complicated and an ongoing effort, both here and frankly around the world, as we all learn together how to do it.
Sure. All right, guys, we're going to take one more break, but we'll be right back to talk about Star Wars' effect on emerging tech.
We have 75 players each here. Let me hear you make some noise.
All right, welcome back, everybody. VR and AR are helping to push marketing initiatives for the Star Wars brand, including toy kiosks, free downloadable experiences on PlayStation, and more. However, will AR ever move beyond just a novelty? Pokemon Go seems to be the only exception here, but could Star Wars do the same? How haven't they? Chris, what do you think?
Wait, I don't know. I mean, Pokemon Go, I think we all signed up the same week, and we were all playing it for the same month, and then it disappeared just as quickly. So, I mean, even with Star Wars, as it's such an enduring brand, I don't know that it has. I mean, it seems like Pokemon was kind of made for AR. I'm not exactly sure how Star Wars could take advantage of that, honestly.
Yeah, Gary, could you see a Pokemon Go style game using Star Wars?
I think it's the same thing there. Obviously, there's certain things like Pokemon or Harry Potter where you're casting spells, or Ghostbusters where you're trapping a ghost, where that technology, that device fits that universe. Whereas I think Star Wars, apart from holograms, there's not really much to it. To be honest, in Star Wars, holograms are just there to give you a message. Like, there's only so much interactivity you can get out of Princess Leia saying,
"Those
"Help
are
me."
very important messages, Gary." But maybe don't have lasting powers like a full game. All right, so Curtis, I mean, do you see these maybe home-based experiences, these smaller scale VR Star Wars experiences as competition to what your company is doing, or do you think they could serve as kind of a gateway to the more immersive experience of the Void?
Yeah, I think they're complementary. I think people get into VR and they at home and they can see the potential of what's around them, and really it just invites the question, like, what's the next step beyond this? How can I get deeper into this world? How can I really feel like I'm there? And the Void becomes the answer to that question. So I really do look at it that way. I look at it, I see a future where people go home and they practice things at home that then they take those skills that they've learned at home and back to the Void to be even better at the Void side of the experience. So there's definitely some sort of, I think, a tie in there that could work really well.
So speaking of more immersive experiences, I mean, do you think we'll ever see a full-fledged Star Wars VR game in the near future, or kind of Disney bide their time until the platform is a proven hit? Chris?
I think absolutely. I think the Void is an example of how successful that could be, and I think that's just the beginnings of that. I mean, we're just really in such an early stage that to get to where Ready Player One is, I mean, I actually think that, like, in terms of a timeline, we may get there before, what was it? Ready Player One was in 2040 something. But I just really think it's a matter of time. I really think that it's the marketing people have a challenge in terms of selling this to a huge audience, and then also getting that pricing right. I think the price point is still a factor.
I'd be very curious to see how much Galaxy's Edge costs, if there will be an additional cost on top of the theme park ticket, speaking of costs. So besides being one of the most profitable properties in history, what is it about Star Wars that has made it the go-to license for new technologies from games, VR, AR, mixed reality? Gary?
I think there's, given the spectrum of stuff that we have out there now, we have, Lord of the Rings, whether it be Harry Potter or anything, there's a unique thing with Star Wars is that Star Wars is one of the only franchises that's multi-generational. There are adults that grew up with the original trilogy. There are now adults that grew up with the prequel trilogy. There's kids now growing up on, Solo, Rogue One, Episode 7 and 8. And I think that's the real marketing difference between all that, is that you have people of all ages that love Star Wars. So there's a bigger spectrum of what you can kind of hit it with. So it's clearly the thing to license, because your key demographic is pretty huge.
It's a valid point. And on that note, we are coming to the end of our show, and I want to thank all of our viewers and our guests for being here. Tell us what you're currently working on and where people can find you on social media, and we'll start with Gary.
You can find me pretty much everywhere called Sneaky Zebra. So youtube.com/Sneaky Zebra, twitter.com/Sneaky Zebra. Just see Sneaky Zebra. It's pretty easy.
And what are you working on, Gary?
I'm shockingly working on a Star Wars fan project at the moment. So
surprise.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, what are you currently working on, and where can people find you online?
You can find me at that Chris Gore on everything. You can listen to my podcast, Film Threat, on iTunes, and just go to filmthreat.com. New reviews and indie film coverage.
Great, thank you. All right, Curtis, what are you currently working on, and where can people find you online?
Well, I'm working on Secret Void awesome stuff, but you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Amazing Curtis, and also, of course, let me check out The Void. Go to thevoid.com to learn more.
All right, thanks to everyone who watched, commented, and shared the show. I'm Andy Roman. Don't forget to like our Facebook page and watch Game Talk Live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. We'll see you next time.